economies. I'll start there, then I walk backwards. I think that will be easier since that's still fresh. You couldn't have said it better. As all the colleagues have said, the entire African continent, I mean, with Kenya inclusive, excellent policies. But Kenya actually beats nearly every country when it comes to policy. I mean, that is the best. I mean, really amazing, but poor in implementation. The intent of Ebafosa was how can we drive transformational development, not just development, but transformational development in such a way that all the actors are on board. So to answer your question, as I said, I will start from below and I will come up. Ebafosa is inclusive. It's the only inclusive policy implementation framework that exists in the continent, and that is domesticated at national level, ensuring that every stakeholder is part of it. As I said in my presentation, even individual citizens that doesn't even belong to an organization are part of Ebafosa. But with the start of this first interagency policy task force, it quite very crucial, because this is policy that will have this first and understand it, and then the next one, the other actors will come in, because within the Ebafosa all those actors are there, and they will be like ex officio to this interagency task force. But this is a policy led, and if we bring in non-policy state actors now, yes, they will be raising the same issues we are raising. But at the end of the day, when it comes to policy, in your different ministries, you understand what do we have, what don't we have, and how can we be able to bridge the gaps. But the actors on the ground are the civil society, they're the NGOs, they're the private sector, they're the academic researchers, and all those people. So Ebafosa is inclusive, and the task force will be inclusive. Then to the big four, I think the Kenyan interagency, Ebafosa Kenya interagency policy task force is actually coming at an opportune moment, not necessarily just because it is 2018, but because the start of 2018, as I said, saw the breakdown of priorities to the big four by the government of Kenya. And therefore, as I said, we can be everywhere but nowhere. But what this task force should do, and this is my humble advice, is to drive socio-economic transformational development. I keep repeating this word, transformational development, in such a way that it's focused on the engine of development. And the engine of development, as I said, for the entire African continent with Kenya inclusive, is agriculture. But the agriculture needs enablers. It needs transport. It needs trade policy. It needs industrialization. It needs irrigation. It needs water. It needs education. It needs everything. But that should be the center. And because the big four have agriculture, food security, it has manufacturing, health, affordable housing, can this task force then focus on how to synchronize policies to implement this? You can always start from somewhere. Because what is going to happen, and I think I'll also touch some comments that have been made, is that in each of the ministry, there exist policies. Ebafosa intent was never to reinvent the wheel, because the problem of Africa today is reinventing the wheel, and we are marking time in the same place. New policies, policy somersault, every time we reverse them, we start back from Africa. No. The agricultural ministry have policies that are actually excellent to implement agricultural transformation. That will not work alone. It needs policies that are already in place in the Ministry of Environment to look at how can agricultural actions integrate those within them. We need financial policies, because if we talk about transformational change driven from the agricultural perspective, there are two risks. The first risk is climate risk. So agriculture needs to be climate proof, and it must be climate proof in a way that is working using the environmental principles. So the environment policies have to be integrated. The second is the financial risk, the biggest risk, because the farmers that produce, smallholder farmers produce 80% of the food we eat. That is factual. But they're also the most disadvantaged, because they don't have access to finance. And I'm really excited that the State Department of Cooperatives colleague is here. And also the chief economist, also part of the Treasury, the Ministry of Finance, is here. How can we ensure that financial policies reconcile with agricultural policy, with environmental policy, with transportation policy, and especially with energy policies to give tax rebates? to the private sector that may be involved in clean energy. They're excellent financial policy, because if you look at M-Pesa, that is finance plus information communication technology policies coming together to create the enabling environment. Actually, before I give examples of innovative actions in other task forces across the continent, what happened in Kenya, though it organically happened, is also proving to be an offshot of a good inter-policy coordination when it comes to M-Pesa. But in this case, where can we learn from best practices? Well, as I presented just a few, but I think when you take the case of Sierra Leone, when they launched their interagency task force, and I think I just need to re-emphasize this again, the policy harmonization is one of the 5 pillars of EBAPOSA, and the policy harmonization speaks to operations. The policy is there to create an enabling environment for operations. And across the entire Kenya, there are actions on the ground. There are actions that are happening. We know that the policies anyway. They're happening. So the rule of the policy is to further create an enabling environment and also incentives in such a way that they can then spur uptake of what is happening and bring it to scale. So if you take this EVA-driven agriculture or climate-smart agriculture, there are a lot of farmers and actors across the country that are doing this. But because they are doing it, there is no business model to be able to bring this to the fore, to uptake it, because they don't have financial incentives, they don't have market incentives, they don't have access to market, routes closer to market. So this task force should be able to look at, okay, the intent is to ensure that the development, the engine of development in this case is agriculture, to implement the Big Four, which needs auxiliary sectors, or all the ministries, transportation, industrialization, all of them together. So what is in my policy that can help contribute to this, to close that gap? That is actually what this task force is supposed to be doing, and that takes me to the bigger question, which I think everyone was waiting for, is what are we supposed to do? My style to terms of references are not ones that are written upfront. My strong belief is when you explain a concept and people understand the concept, their role starts becoming very clear when you are discussing it with them. You don't force down terms of references on people's throats, because everyone here is an expert and is a professional, and everyone is coming from a ministry with policies. Everyone here knows what he or she is doing in his ministry. So the terms of reference is very simple. The terms of reference centers around the Big Four. That in all the ministries, whether it is environment, how can environmental actions contribute to drive food security in Kenya? We have a policy. You have the climate change response strategy, you have the climate change action, you have the national determined contributions. How can we implement them? The national determined contributions, ensuring clean energy, ensuring sustainable agricultural practices, ensuring that you can be able to do things that you're not destroying your forest or bringing the forest cover to, is it 10% by 20 or, yes, I know that it's 10%. I don't have all the facts correct in that one, but the point is each and every ministry should be able then to contribute, to look at the policies and see how they can drive transformational change through the lens of agriculture. If it is transportation, how can our transportation policies ensure that closeness to markets or access from where production is happening using climate smart agriculture